What's up, everybody? Big Herc fresh out. I'm kicking it with the homie from the north side, kicking around some tales from the north side, keeping it real, trying to provide some positive information on a lot of the misconceptions about Norteños and Sureños in the system. So, I'm sitting here having a conversation with the homie and I'm breaking down a few things for you guys. What happens if a Norteño ends up in a prison down in Southern California or if a Sureño ends up in a prison in Northern California?
Okay. So really, it kind of just depends if how established one is. One of the if so if I end up in a prison in Southern California, and I have before, and I've been on yards where it's just two of us roll up, and we were, there was no hiding it. I had a Mongolian at the time. There just was no hiding it. As soon as I hit the yard, I was a youngster, and but we held strong, and we ended up establishing it, and then next thing you know, we were about 30 deep, right? Which is not that deep, but for us it is, right? So it went from nothing to a little bit of something. But I've also been on yards where, as soon as I hit the yard, maybe 10 minutes later, I'm getting off. By the time I drop my shit and as soon as I get jammed up, so hey, where are you from? This is where I'm from. I'm getting off. And then there's been other places where as soon as I get off, or as soon as I can, as soon as they put us in a holding tank at that prison, I'm getting off. It just depends on the situation, right? So, and you really you're taking a chance with your life if you try to go out onto or step into a prison that there's nobody's there. So really, my best advice would be, don't try to slide through, right? Don't try to slide through because you give the enemy time to prepare, right? So the best thing to do is kind of catch them off guard. I try to find one of the main, whichever one I think has any kind of influence, the most tatted up one or whatever, and I'll blast them, right? I'll take off on them. Now, that's only because I know that if I end up trying to slide through or stay quiet or whatever the case is, it ain't gonna be pretty for me, right? So you're stepping into a lion's den, right? So same thing. If a Southsider tries to come through and their attitudes are a little bit different. Sometimes they don't do have that mentality like that because they're very comfortable because there's a lot of them. So they kind of think they're everywhere, but they might end up someplace where they're not everywhere, and they think they're gonna come and slide through, and it doesn't work out well, right? So it's just equal. Now, can we coexist? And in a lot of state prisons, yeah, we're on the same yard, right? And I've been on state prison yards where we're on the same yard. In the federal system, probably my first 10 years in the federal system, we were on the same yards in a lot of places. And then later on, times change, right? Things happen, times change, and in the last part of my prison sentence, we weren't allowed to coexist, right? On our side, basically, we're not allowed to be on the same yard. So, if there was any enemy on the yard, we were taken off as it's the first available opportunity. We were blasting. So, the Tango Blast, they got a saying. They say, if you ain't blasting, you ain't lasting. So, I took that little saying with me and was like, man, it is what it is. The reality is when you're in prison and if you're a part of a group, your best bet is to try to rise up as close as you can to the top and be a decision maker. And if not, you're always going to be in the trenches. And some people are cool there. They're cool with that, and they're savages. They love getting down. They love being in the trenches, man. But if you're more intellectually inclined, you're gonna try to be more of an influencer in there within your group. And that was my goal, probably when I was young, when I was in my early 20s, is to to move up as far as I could without really being like a lifer per se, because the next level up would be something like Western Familiar or something like that. And the way we look at it is, if you're basically if you're Norteño or Northerner, you're just in the cause. But if you take that next step and you live for the cause, and man, that's a big step. That's basically saying you're good where you're at, and you want to you want that to be your life, right? So, you know, I never took that step personally, you know, but I got as close as I could, and yeah, that's how you're gonna make it. You know, that's how you're gonna make it. You have to understand your surroundings. You gotta know where you're going. Information is key when you're in prison. I know where we're at every single prison. I know how many homeboys are there. I know, you know, you're tied in. If you're not tied in, you get somewhere, you don't know what's going on, and you're lost, right? So the beautiful thing about our movement is information. So we are very good at relaying information, right? We know when somebody, we could look back in our stuff, and I could tell you 10 years ago when somebody hit a yard, you know, that was part of our group. So I mean, we don't miss nothing, and that's the thing. You know, we're super educated. We share that education amongst each other. We know our history. Can't nobody tell us any different, and you know, we use that information to survive. If we didn't have that type of system in place, we wouldn't be surviving, right? We would walk into these blind situations and not know what's going on. So,
Real talk from the homie from up north. Lockdown's over. Get your yard time in. Exclusively at FreshOutSeries.com.